Most people think the biggest mistake you can make is trusting your HOA. Mine was letting them believe they had already won. They spent months building 26 luxury cabins on what they proudly called community property. They had no idea every single inch of that island legally belonged to me, though I bought that island nearly 12 years earlier after selling my engineering company. It wasn't an investment. It was supposed to be my retirement escape when nobody could tell me what to do. Ironically, that peace didn't last very long. That I made sure everything was handled properly when I bought the property. Every survey, every tax record, every deed were professionally recorded. I believe paperwork was something you prepared once and hopefully never needed again. Everything changed when Karen Whitmore became HOA president. She wasn't interested in maintaining the neighborhood. She wanted complete control over everything surrounding the lake, including land she didn't own. Karen proudly announced that the association had approved a luxury cabin expansion project for the island. Everyone applauded except me. I quietly asked how they planned to build on land they didn't own. Karen laughed and claimed the HOA's attorneys had already confirmed everything. According to her, the island had become common community land decades earlier. I knew she was wrong, but I didn't argue. Instead of fighting immediately, I went home and reviewed every document one more time. The paperwork was exactly as I remembered. My ownership was crystal clear. The question wasn't whether I would win. It was when construction started only 2 weeks later. Heavy machinery rolled across my island from sunrise until sunset. I watched everything from across the lake without saying a single word. That silence confused everyone. Karen visited the site almost every day, posing for photos and congratulating contractors. She acted like the island was already hers. Every dollar they spent pushed them one step closer to the surprise waiting in court. Hidden inside that worn leather folder was one document Karen had never seen, the original recorded deed with every survey attached. I kept looking at the growing cabins across the lake and smiled. Sometimes the strongest move isn't stopping someone. It's letting them finish exactly what they are not allowed to build. Within 3 months, the island barely looked the same. Rows of beautiful cabins stretched across the property, and the HOA proudly advertised them as the future of an exclusive lakeside retreat. Every new building increased the value of land they still didn't own. Friends kept asking why I wasn't stopping the project. They thought I was giving up. I simply smiled and changed the subject. There are moments when patience becomes your greatest advantage. Karen held weekly meetings with contractors, approving upgrades and luxury finishes. She wanted the cabins to attract wealthy vacation buyers. The more money they invested, the stronger my legal position quietly became. The HOA newsletter celebrated the project as their biggest achievement in history. They promised homeowners increased property values and a luxury destination unlike anything around the lake. Confidence quickly turned into overconfidence. Every important document was copied, scanned, and safely stored. I wasn't relying on memory or emotion. I wanted facts, signatures, and recorded history. Courts respect evidence far more than loud opinions. Before making my move, I hired one of the best property attorneys in the state. He studied every page for nearly an hour before leaning back with a smile. His first words were exactly what I expected to hear. The county survey couldn't have been clearer. The island had never been transferred to the HOA. There wasn't a missing signature, a disputed line, or a legal loophole. The ownership record was flawless. By early autumn, the cabins looked incredible. Investors toured the island believing reservations would open within weeks. Karen accepted compliments like she had personally built the entire community herself. That same morning, while Karen celebrated construction milestones, my attorney and I quietly filed a lawsuit. We weren't asking the court to stop construction anymore. We were asking the court to recognize what already belonged to me. When the paperwork received its official court stamp, everything changed. Karen still believed she controlled 26 brand new cabins. She had no idea the courtroom was about to become the most expensive meeting of her entire career. Karen couldn't have been happier. According to the HOA financial reports, the island project was already being called the community's greatest success. She believed nothing could stop the grand opening now. Everything changed with a single envelope. A court officer handed Karen the lawsuit in front of several homeowners. Her smile disappeared the moment she read the first page. Karen immediately called an emergency board meeting. She insisted the lawsuit was nothing more than intimidation. But the attorney wasn't smiling anymore. He kept rereading the complaint in complete silence. That afternoon, David visited the county records office himself. Hours later, he returned carrying copies of every recorded deed. The confidence he had shown earlier was slowly turning into concern. While the HOA rushed from meeting to meeting, I did absolutely nothing. I watched the lights come on inside cabins that legally sat on my land. Patients had finally begun paying dividends. Karen demanded answers from everyone involved in the project. Contractors blamed surveyors. Surveyors blamed old HOA records. Nobody wanted to admit they had built millions of dollars worth of improvements on privately owned land. The first court hearing arrived sooner than anyone expected. My attorney carried 3 neatly organized binders filled with evidence. I carried only one thing: complete confidence. Judge Ellis opened the hearing with a simple question: who holds legal title to the island? It sounded like an easy question. Yet no one from the HOA answered immediately. Point one by one. Certified surveys, tax records, and recorded deeds were placed before the court. Every document pointed to the same conclusion. The island had remained under my ownership from the very beginning. Then came the moment I'd waited years for. I quietly opened the old leather folder and placed the original recorded deed on the evidence table. For the first time since this fight began, Karen realized the case wasn't slipping. The judge spent several quiet minutes reviewing every page of the original deed. Nobody spoke. The only sound inside the courtroom was the turning of paper. Every second made Karen visibly more uncomfortable. Next came decades of county tax records. Every annual payment had my name on it. The island had never appeared under the HOA's ownership. Not once, not even by mistake. David tried to argue that the HOA had acted in good faith based on old community maps. The judge listened carefully before asking one simple question: do you have a recorded deed transferring ownership? The silence answered for him. The judge explained that assumptions, community traditions, and internal HOA documents could never replace a properly recorded property deed. Ownership was determined by law, not by confidence. Outside the courtroom, the cabin stood completely finished. Beautiful homes worth millions overlooked the lake. Ironically, every improvement made the value of my property even higher. For the first time since becoming HOA president, Karen looked uncertain. The confidence she had carried into every meeting was gone. Reality had finally caught up with her. When it was my turn to speak, I stayed respectful. I explained that I had never tried to stop construction because I trusted the legal process. The facts were stronger than any argument I could make. Judge Ellis looked across the courtroom before delivering her decision. The evidence overwhelmingly established that the island remained my private property. The HOA had built on land it never legally owned. The room fell completely silent. Karen didn't argue. She didn't protest. She simply stared at the documents that had ended months of confidence in less than an hour. As we walked down the courthouse steps, my attorney smiled and quietly said, "Sometimes the oldest piece of paper in the room is also the most valuable." I looked back at the courthouse, knowing the biggest chapter of this story still wasn't over. The cabins were legally on my land, and now everyone knew it. The court's ruling spread across the county faster than anyone expected. Overnight, the island became the most talked about property around the lake. Ironically, the cabins Karen had proudly built had transformed my land into something even more valuable. The HOA board faced difficult questions from homeowners. Millions had been spent on a project without confirming ownership first. Suddenly, the people who had cheered the development wanted real answers. My attorney explained that the HOA had only a few realistic options. They could negotiate, appeal, or remove every improvement from the island. None of those choices would be easy or inexpensive. For the first time, Karen spoke without arrogance. She asked whether we could reach a practical solution instead of continuing the legal fight. I listened carefully before giving my answer that I wasn't interested in revenge. I wanted accountability and respect for property rights. If the cabins were going to remain, every future decision would happen through a legal agreement, not assumptions. Months later, the island finally became what it should have been from the beginning, a peaceful place where families could enjoy the lake. The difference was simple. Everything now operated with the owner's permission. As I watched the sunset over the water, I realized the biggest victory had never been about the cabins. It was about proving that patience, preparation, and the truth still mattered. That old deed returned to its place inside my office. Years earlier, it had looked like nothing more than a stack of aging papers. In court, it became the strongest document anyone could produce. People still ask why I never stopped the construction sooner. My answer is always the same. Sometimes the truth doesn't need to interrupt someone's mistake. It simply waits for the right moment to be revealed. Owning property isn't just about land. It's about protecting what you've earned and respecting the law. My island never changed owners. The only thing that changed was who finally understood the truth.